there was also the innovation that went into, okay, we can do this better. There's a better way.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Epps. I'm here with Neha. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Ryan.
I
And
guess is this afternoon? I'm sure. What
nope,
time is it?
it's morning. I'm in Europe today, so
Oh, awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's
yeah.
apologies for the reschedule, but yeah, it's been a bit hectic this week. But so tell me, what is your role, and tell me a bit about Content Stack. What exactly the business is?
For sure. Yeah. So my role is founder and CEO at Contentstack. And Contentstack essentially is a content management or content experience platform that helps power new, modern, interesting digital experiences for lots of brands. And we've been around for just a little bit over 3 years. We work with customers like Lego, JP Morgan Chase, HP, Levi's, Mattel, McDonald's, lots of gaming companies like Riot
Wow.
Games. So
Yep.
really doing some fun stuff.
That's awesome. Now, what exactly is a content experience platform, if I may ask?
For sure. So if you think about going to any type of website and clicking something and doing a search, there's something happening behind the scenes that
Yeah.
is looking for content or pulling up content either based on who you are or what you're looking for or where you're based. And all of that is based on some kind of logic and data and lots of digital assets like text or images or videos. And so a content management system essentially just tracks all of that and maintains it and helps turn it into an experience that an end user who's actually trying to interact with something can get access to. And then outside of just the web, which is what used to be web content management, there's lots of ways that we consume digital content today, including our smartwatches and phones and digital billboards. And just out in the world when we're walking around, we're now seeing a lot of dynamic content, and it's all got to get served from something. And so that's what content management allows you to do.
Interesting. Now, so I'm assuming then CMS, EP, they're essentially the same thing, right? Or is there kind of a difference?
There's sort of this convergence happening of all the different acronyms in the
Yeah.
content space, right? So there used to be web content management,
Yep.
WCM, then there's content management system, CMS, and you'll now hear a lot about DXP, digital experience platforms. In our world, in our opinion, all of this is sort of converging into one thing, and we call it content experience platforms, just to throw out yet another acronym. But really, it's about that the world is kind of expecting experiences to be more dynamic and personalized. And it's now happening at such a fast pace that everything's converging into content, sort of the hub or the center of where brands are storing a lot of their content. And then all the different spokes to that, whether it's doing something that's more personalized or figuring out ways to make content more dynamic or thinking about, what are the 15 different ways that this content can be consumed. That's all starting with sort of the hub or the content experience platform.
Interesting. Now, as someone who's been a writer and working in different CMSs throughout my career, it's been interesting because not all of them are very easy to work in. I'll say that. Now, what makes Content Stack stand out? What makes the platform itself stand out?
So it really starts with why we built it. So if I can go back to like kind of just the origin of Content Stack, I think that will help
Sure.
explain that. So I started Content Stack originally because I was running a digital consulting company and helping brands implement existing content management systems that were in the market for the experiences they were trying to build. And this is like 15 years ago. So think about most things were just static web sites.
Yeah.
You didn't really, mobile was still new. Apple had just released the iPhone. And so bringing mobile into the enterprise was also very new.
Yep.
And cloud was new, and SaaS, software as a service, was also new. So there's all these like new big digital trends that were starting to impact how companies and brands were thinking about the experiences they were putting out. And so we were helping them use existing software to do that. But it was really hard because that software was built for the world of the web. And
Yeah.
that's a different world. It was very static. It was very just kind of dull because it was like a brochure that was digitized, right?
Yep.
And while we were trying to use all these tools, they had to pay us to use the tools, to do these things that the tools were not organically made to do. And so we built this very simple form-based CMS, which was basically anybody, whether you're a technical person or not, could fill out this form, and that form would send content to your mobile app or your mobile website.
Interesting.
And that's where
Wow.
it started. So it started with trying to solve something that was really difficult and hard to use and required a very specialized skill set, to making it simple for anyone to use. And then as things evolved and the market shifted and digital trends grew, we found that there was this whole user base that wanted to simplify how they did things, technical people that wanted to bring really cool digital experiences to life and use their skill sets to do that, but non-technical people that wanted the autonomy to be able to do something quickly without having to wait 16 weeks for their IT team to look at the ticket they filed and go and develop something complicated to change a word on a website or an app. So that's essentially it. So it's just been essentially trying to make it really easy for people to be more powerful and do the work that they want to do, and do it in a way that's quick and easy.
For sure. No, thank you for that. Now you already kind of explained what companies use Content Stack. What like what other companies use Content Stack now? And if you can, tell me.
Yeah, I mean, so some of the examples that I shared that are interesting. So if you think about a company like Lego using Content Stack, not just for the website, but also in the way that they think about TV or the way that they engage from some of their games. Riot Games, which has become a really popular gaming platform over the
Yep.
course of the last couple of years, is using it for powering like the experiences that you actually interact with when you're playing the games. And
Wow.
so, and then you've got lots of websites that are running on Content Stack, which like I said, kind of used to be much more static, but now it's, they kind of know who you are, what you're looking for, what your demographic is. And so they're able to serve personalized experiences when you go to the site. So now if you're browsing around the web and you start to see, oh, that actually appeals to me, it's usually because there's something happening behind the scenes that makes it appeal to you.
Yeah. Oh, there's a free demo, right? On your website, you can download a free demo, try it out for yourself. It's really simple.
Yeah, you can sign up for a demo. The beauty of SaaS is there's no download required. You just log in and start using it.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Oh, and in 2021, I believe Inc. Gave you guys the best workplace, correct? You guys won best workplace. Now tell me, how does that go into your business? How does workplace, just culture go into the business? And it starts there, obviously. So just tell me about that.
Absolutely. And it's something I'm super passionate about. And actually, the thing that keeps me going is the people and the organization that we've created. We call ourselves at Content Stack, we call ourselves a tribe. And it's such an interesting word because, some people might think of that as having some negative connotations, right?
Yeah.
But when we thought about building, what is this company? Who are we? And we talked about the word family, and then we talked about the word tribe. And we said, family is kind of what you're born into and kind of stuck with, for lack of a better, way of thinking about it, versus tribe is the family you choose. And so it's really about coming together and working with people around a common goal. And for us, we spend a lot of time thinking about what is it that we each want to accomplish in our careers. And that comes back to our mission, which is empowering people to unlock their highest potential and do the best work, right? And so it all kind of comes together in creating a culture based around a unique set of values that we all align around, and then living those values, working together to accomplish things to make ourselves better, but to also make the things that our customers and our communities want to do come to fruition.
I love that. It's one of the most important things that I feel like a lot of businesses take for granted. To get the right workplace going, it's all about the culture. It's all about, speaking true to everybody. And I love that. And not just Content Stack itself, but you have also won a ton of awards throughout your career and have started several businesses like Built.io, Raw Engineering. Can you tell me a
Yeah.
bit about those and how they kind of shaped who you are today and in your current role?
For sure. Yeah. So the company I was talking about earlier, when I talked about implementing various digital experiences and different CMSs, that was Raw Engineering. And Raw Engineering was essentially built to make it easier for brands to adopt new technologies. And so at the kind of early age of digital transformation, we were consultants. And it's important to think about that because there's sort of two sides. There was consultative caring about the people and wanting to make their lives better. And there was also the innovation that went into, okay, we can do this better. There's a better way. We're challenging the status quo constantly
Yep.
and not being comfortable settling for what was in the market, right? So the first, it started with consulting and then kind of this aggravation of like, no, there has to be a better way to do this. And so we built a product called built.io, which was an integration platform that connected all of these different, at the time, if you remember, Internet of Things was a big deal.
Yep.
There's this word API, which essentially is a connector between things. So we created a platform that would allow you to connect anything that had that API, sort of a language that would talk to another thing with an API. And that created an entire category called integration platform as a service. And that's where
Yep.
built.io was a leader. And then fast forward a couple of years, we created Contentstack from that simple form I talked about earlier to a full-fledged content management platform.
Wow.
And so I kind of had these three sort of different companies underneath one umbrella. And in 2018, we decided to split and turn them into three. So Raw Engineering became an autonomous consulting firm. Built.io spun out and became an integration platform, and Contentstack became the content management company that it is today. And
Wow.
then we actually later in 2018 sold Built.io to Software AG.
Gotcha.
And Raw Engineering continues to exist. I'm still involved as a board member, and that's actually evolved into a digital experience platform for sports organizations. And Contentstack is what we're talking about today.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of went over a little bit already, but what kind of drew you to the content experience, CMS? What drew you into that realm in the first place?
So prior to starting the first enterprise company, which was Raw Engineering, I was actually working in sort of enterprise companies myself and running two different things that really kind of drove me to thinking that there's got to be a better way. One of them was I was working at Sun Microsystems, and that was in the day a darling in Silicon Valley. And at that time, going back to the conversation about downloads, people would download Solaris, an operating system, and there was no way to really engage them after that. So my whole initiative was there's all these people that use our software. How do you turn that into an engaging web experience? And this was early days of web and figuring out how to do that. So this whole concept of web as a channel before we called it e-commerce was like where it started for me. And
Yeah.
then I went on to VMware to launch their first ever e-commerce initiative. And that was essentially building something from the ground up to a $50 million business inside the organization. And in
Wow.
doing that, what I found is everybody's kind of aggravated. Like they want to do something, they have this talent, but they're being held back by either technology or processes. And so that was like, I would constantly have these arguments with people that were on the other side. I was always kind of on the business side, the business mindset, the creative, wanting to do things quickly and easily and make it more fun and engaging. And then there was the people that had to like hold me back from doing that because there's all these tools, there's processes, there's security, you don't want to break anything.
Yep.
And so the real impetus for everything was there's got to be a better way to unlock talent. And so I created Raw Engineering to help unlock talent and make it easier to do things. And then that led to a series of different products.
Oh, where do you see the future headed? Do you see interesting new concepts in this space? Like, do you see the back end even like becoming even more streamlined in a sense?
I love thinking about technology becoming more democratized. And, whether we think about individuals being able to do things they couldn't do because now technology makes it easier to do that, that's really where it starts, right? Like for someone like me who's not a developer to be able to build a connector between two technologies and have some of that if this then that logic, that's really where like the magic starts to happen, because you're no longer the barrier is no longer technology, it's the extent of your imagination.
Yeah, I love that. Now, what are your opinions about new technologies like the metaverse and stuff like that? How do you feel about Web3?
I think that it's going to be really interesting to see what real use cases come to life. I think similar to what we saw with AR and VR just a couple of years ago, where we started to see that there was virtual reality that led to doctors being able to promote remote procedures. Those are the types of use cases I think that will be really interesting, the ones that are real impactful. A lot of it right now feels more gaming oriented or social or, kind of interesting. But
Yeah.
what I look forward to are the ones that are really going to impact the way that people live or the way people do their work.
No, I love that. No, it's really interesting world, and I think Web3 on its own is important. I feel like the metaverse itself is just a buzzword at this point, but I do think the next stage of the internet is quite interesting to look at, personally. But
For
beyond
sure.
that, you have put equality at the forefront of your just ideals and stuff. Can you explain to me how diversity in the workplace and your different initiatives at your current position has, impacted your growth, I guess, like scale up diversity pledge and stuff like that?
For sure. Yeah. And it's interesting you said the word equality. And we actually think about the difference between equality and equity a lot. And we actually changed our mission statement to talk about equity instead of the word equality. And just to kind of level set what that is equality is everybody has the same access to exactly the same thing. Equity is thinking about not everybody is the same, and what they need in order to access the same opportunities could be different. And one of the best examples of that is you might have a person who's very short and a person who's very tall. The person who's tall can see over the fence without standing on anything. But to give the person who's short the same opportunity, you may have to give them a tall chair or something. And then they both are at equal footing to have the same opportunity to watch a game or whatever's over the fence. And so that's kind of where it starts, is just thinking about access to opportunities or access to technology, and then it kind of rolls out from there. And so when we think about that at Contentstack, the premise is that the more diverse the organization is from the perspective of backgrounds, cultures, education, location, all of that, you bring new and interesting experiences. Those experiences then lead to better ideas. Those ideas lead to better execution, and the company does better as a result. And so we do a lot of work to try to ensure that we are bringing in diverse candidates, for example, to the positions that we are hiring for. And we actually have made a pledge that we will do that moving forward. And so I actually worked with our investors and other CEOs in the portfolio to create what we call the Scale Up Pledge. And that pledge holds CEOs like me accountable for ensuring that as we continue to scale the organization, we're thinking about diversity as a part of our initiatives. And so we have to actually show numbers that demonstrate that when we have candidates, we're bringing in candidates from underrepresented minorities, from different genders, and thinking about how to ensure that we have equality and equity in how we think about building our organization.
Oh, I like your concept of equity. I like that. I think it draws, it's not about, most of the time now it's about pointing the finger. I feel like a lot of media and even just in general, consumers are pointing the finger at companies, and it's not about that. It should be about just starting at a good baseline, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean,
It's in one more point on that is, so I talked about access, and that's access to opportunities. The other side of it is relatability.
yep.
And relatability is really, like for me as a female CEO, I didn't see a lot of other female CEOs, especially not ones that come from non-technical backgrounds running a tech company. And so that relatability wasn't really there for me. I didn't know that I could reach for that. And so a lot of it is really also just in the interview process, as an example, ensuring that we have, if we're interviewing females, ensuring that we have at least another female on the interview panel. So you can see like, oh, there's other people that I can relate to that are in these positions, right? And it seems so simple and obvious, but it has to be deliberate.
Well, I mean, now you're even heading up a podcast, right?
Dream makers.
Dream makers. Thank you. And you essentially just talk to female leaders at this in this podcast. Is it just voice? Is it just audio, or is it also video?
It's mostly audio, but we do a video recording. So there's lots of video snippets that we like to share. But it's an interesting because I'm on this side, and as a hobby, I'm a certified sommelier. So I've been studying wine for years.
Oh,
And so
wow.
I send my guest a bottle of wine, and I send myself the same bottle. And we always start with opening the bottle together, having a conversation about the wine. And then it becomes very casual, but it allows us both to open up and talk about our stories, and it becomes very real really fast, which is what I really appreciate about that podcast.
No, that's awesome. And I think that's also important, the fact that I think there's not enough female leaders, especially in technology. They're very overlooked. Yeah. And that's a very important aspect to look at.
For sure.
Um, yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Is there anything specific you wanted to talk about?
Um, I would just say, maybe for anyone listening, and especially for the females that are successful, please remember to always extend the ladder down and bring people up with you. And for those females that, or any young entrepreneurs or people that are young in their career and just kind of getting started, just remember that it's about hard work, but it's also about relating to the people that you work with, and giving back is a really big part of that. And so when you're living your life and you want to continue to grow and go up the ladder, remember that it's about a two-way street. And the more you give, the more that you'll also learn and get back over time.
And what about Contentstack? Is there any interesting new updates coming, or interesting? Yeah.
We're always working on really cool things, but what I'm super excited about at the moment, and kind of alluded to it earlier, we had a lot of integration experience from having built built.io back in the day. And now we think about content management as sort of the center or the hub of a content experience, but there is more to it. There's all of these other ecosystem partners that we work with that enable you to do really cool things with that content. And we've recently announced, it's still in beta, but what we call Automation Hub, which allows you to connect content management to all of these other really cool things and do it in a way that empowers you to do more with your CMS. And so I'm super excited about that, because it's kind of bringing together the world of democratizing integration with democratizing content management and empowering people to do even more with what they've already started to work on.
That's awesome. And finally, you specifically, what about you? Are there any specific new businesses, new I guess inroads that you're looking at, I guess, in technology?
So I'm pretty focused on building out Contentstack and growing this company. We're on a pretty high growth trajectory. Outside of that, I do spend a lot of my personal time doing board seats at organizations I care about. I serve on Austin, Texas's Habitat for Humanity board.
That's
I spend
awesome.
time with a lot of young entrepreneurs that are kind of earlier in their careers and earlier in their entrepreneurial journey, helping them to build out their first investor decks, or their pitches and things like that. And so I really enjoy that. I get a lot of energy from seeing all the new ideas that are coming from the next generation of entrepreneurs.
That's awesome. No, thank you so much, Neha. Your ambition, it's inspirational, and just your general outlooks is awesome. I love it. Is there anything else? I know you've kind of already covered it, but anything else you want to add?
No,
I think you
I
went it over.
appreciate, yeah, no, I totally appreciate the time and the interest. And thanks, Ryan,
Yeah.
for hosting.
And if you enjoyed this video you just watched, please hit like and subscribe. And be sure to stop by techtime.com for the latest in news about tech, science, business, and so much more.